guys, Josh here, and I'm just going to be doing a quick build video of what I use in open world and dueling. We have 5 bone pirate on the body, 1 well fitted on the hands, and then the rest of it is impen. And you want a tri-stack glyph on the chest and a tri-stack glyph on the legs, gold. You also are going to want gold max stamina and chance on the rest of it. We're going to have 2 blood spawn. The helmet is well fitted with another tri-stack glyph enchanted. And then we're also going to have impen blood spawn shoulders with a gold max stamina and chance. Basically all the glyphs we have are gold. And for the rings, we're going to be running agility rings or agility jewelry. We have all weapon damage. You can also go 1 recovery. I usually run 1 recovery open world, and that will bring you up to around 2200 recovery. Usually I would run one extra damage if I'm dueling people, just because I can sustain myself pretty well with 1900 recovery in duels, and I don't really need the extra recovery unless I'm like dodge rolling a lot more or spamming heals a lot more, which doesn't really happen. And for the weapons, I usually use an Asylum battle axe, but Asylum greatsword can also work. It's just that the axe bleed is semi hard to proc in open world situations, so I think sword is just better in a wider variety of encounters. In 1v1s though, you might be able to get away with axe, because axe bleed, if you can get that to proc, that will chunk people a lot. It's basically useless against Templars. If you're fighting Templars, just go straight with sword. The axe though definitely has its place. The trait for both of these weapons will be Nirnhoned, and we are going to be using double damage poisons on our front bar because I just can't find any enchants that are worth it, or hit as hard, or proc as often, or whatever. On our back bar, we're going to be running a infused master's bow, enchanted with a gold weapon damage enchant. Now the reason we're going to be using the weapon damage enchant instead of anything else is because the weapon damage enchant with the infused trait gives you a lot more damage, and you can proc it off of cooldown, which I'll be showing you on the target dummy later on. And we don't use, obviously, no poisons on the back bar, or you miss out on the enchant. And people have made arguments of running powered instead of infused, but do keep in mind that the weapon damage enchant, when it's procced, that applies to yourself, while the master's bow poison injection buff only applies to the target that you're hitting. So when you proc your enchant with your bow, your stat sheet is going to show a 452 weapon damage increase, and that will buff your heals as well. That is why it is much more powerful, in my opinion, than powered or defending or whatnot. So keep that in mind. For our, what's it called? I will go over CP briefly, just because I have been playing CP active more often, and I feel like CP is just it's just better now compared to a couple patches ago where it was overpowered. We have 61 into Ironclad. By the way, most of the CP is just stuff I kind of play around with. I don't have like, I'm not really the authority on where to put your CP, but this is just what works for me, and I'll give brief explanations on why. I put 61 points into Ironclad to bring it up to 21.18%. By the way, keep in mind that CP only rounds down, so if you have points into a certain CP passive and it's 99 or it's 0.99% rather than a full percentage, it's going to round down to the nearest percent. So if you're at 21.99%, it's just going to be 21% that's actually going to be applied to your character. So that's a very big thing you need to keep in mind when you're putting in your CP, or you could actually miss out on a lot of points. I missed out on a lot of points that I didn't even realize when I saw this. We have 49 into Resistant. We have 34 into Thick Skin, so this is going to reduce your damage. Things like Blood Craze, Poison Injection, Double Damage Poisons, Jabs from Templars, AoEs, basically everything a mag DK hits you with besides whip, stuff like that, and leave, obviously. We have, I don't really put that many points into Hardy and Elemental Defender because most of the stuff I get hit with is direct damage or damage over time. And also keep in mind that these two passives will shield you or will reduce the damage from both sources of damage, so magic and physical, poison and fire, lightning, whatever. These will only shield you against the certain specific types of damage, so keep that in mind. 43 points into each. We have 0 in, obviously, 0 in medium, 0 in spell shield, 0 in light armor, or whatever. And then we have nothing into this point. I've tried putting quick recovery into 8%, but I found it much more efficient just putting the points into Ironclad or Thick Skin. The damage reduction from Ironclad and or Thick Skin is much better than having a little bit of healing received, especially if you're running solo, because you're not getting healed by a bunch of sources. We have 16 into Sprinter. If you're running a heavy armor build, you probably want to put more into this because medium armor gives you a lot more reduction on sprint. We also are running 2 well-fitted traits, so that's going to add into this. So you don't really need to max out Sprinter because it's really not worth it. I could even get away with putting no points into Sprinter, but it's not bad to have it when you're getting chased down by a lot of people. We have Break Free reduced by 11%, 26 points into Warlord. We put 0 points into Siphoner. I really find Siphoner is more of like a dueling thing. It's meh open world, I find, so I just don't even bother putting any points into it because I don't really put my CP into around dueling most of the time. We have Mooncalf at 12%. We put 56 points into it. The reason I put 56 points rather than like 70 is because I usually end up wasting 20 to 30 points trying to gain 2% extra recovery, which in my opinion is just not worth it whatsoever. 12 or 11% is kind of that sweet spot where you don't waste a lot of points, but you can still kind of get the benefit of the CP. So that's what I find. And we put Tenacity, 32 points into that because you get 8% extra resources from your heavy attacks, which I find is very helpful, especially if you're using a bow and you can heavy attack from a distance. And also, I just really haven't found any other better place to put it in, honestly. I haven't found any better places to put these points into. I don't put any into Arcanist because I have a lot of magic recovery to begin with. Obviously 0 into Shadow Ward and Shade because we really do not utilize either of those mechanics. And I put 71 points into Befoul, which honestly surprises a lot of people, but this helps me secure a lot of kills. This will buff my incap from 30% Defile all the way up to a 45% Defile, which is insane. That's almost like having Fasala's Guile pre-Morrowind on someone as soon as you incap them, given that they can't cleanse it. It's really good. I find it's a very good debuff. This is also going to buff things such as like a Rev Bash, and if you use Defile poisons, Minor Defile, it's going to buff Minor Defile from, I think Minor Defile is 15 or 10%, but it's going to buff it all the way up to 22%, I think, so that's good. And then we are in a medium armor Stanblade build, so we're going to use dodge roll quite a bit as a defense, so 12% reduction on dodge roll is also a pretty good idea. I'd even argue you could bring Befoul down to around 40%, put the rest of the points into Tumbling if you find you dodge roll a lot more than usual, or you need more reduction on it. Obviously we have no points into this tree, so this is the tree that a lot of people kind of get surprised where I put my points into here. So I put 37 points into Physical Weapons Expert, I put 61 into Master Arms, and I have 23 in Shattering Blows because this helps me kill Sorks. And obviously everyone I fight is not a Sork, but I don't really need to, I don't feel like I should be changing my CP around every time I'm fighting a Sork, so I just leave this here as kind of like a safe, not really a safe thing, but kind of like a guarantee that I have like a balanced damage kit across all characters that I'm fighting. The reason I put 121 points in total into the Atronach is because it procs or activates this CP passive called Tactician. When you roll dodge an attack, you set an enemy off balance. Riposte is also pretty nice, but not really that important at all. Butcher is decent. Retaliation is obviously useless for me. And Physical Weapons Expert, I put points into this to get it up to 21% because most of my attacks are light attack, surprise attack weaves, or light attack executioner weaves anyways. And this has buffed my DPS honestly by a lot against people, especially after you in-cap them and you hit them with a light attack. I've hit people for 3k, 4k light attacks with this on. That's why people would have like 40% health left. And I would do one light attack executioner and kill them because both of them crit. I've crit people for like a 5k light attack and like a 9k executioner, and then they died at like 50% health or something around that area. But it's physical. Do not sleep on Physical Weapons Expert. It's honestly a pretty good CP passive to have. And then obviously Master of Arms, it's gonna buff our direct damage attacks. So crit rush, poison injection, in-cap, execute, which surprise attack, that's all of your damage from a Nightblade. Bow ulti, same thing, direct damage attack. So the only thing it's not gonna buff, I believe, is Dawnbreaker, so keep that in mind. We have precise strikes up to 19%. So I put 51 points into that. I put 2 into piercing because I just dumped the rest of my remaining CP into here, because if I put CP into anything else, it's gonna round down anyways, and I don't have enough points to bring any other passive to the next percent. I put the rest into Mighty, 56 points into Mighty to bring it to 12%. And just like the other CP passive in the green tree, Mooncalf, I don't think it's worth the points putting 15, 20, 30 points only to bring this passive up by a couple of percent. So I don't even bother putting it past 12 or 11% sometimes. And like I was saying before, this Tactician passive, when you roll dodge an attack, you set them off balance. That pairs very, very well with Exploiter. With Exploiter, it increases the damage you do against off-balance enemies by 10%. So that's a very, very good passive. It's a free 10% extra damage against everyone you set off balance. So that's a really, really decent thing to have. And our our ability bars, Vigor on our back bar, Shadowy Disguise on our front bar, or sorry, this is still our back bar, I'm really tired. Shadowy Disguise, Siphoning Attacks. The reason I use Siphoning Attacks is because that's where all of my Magicka regen comes from. It heals me, obviously both morphs heal you, and it gives you ultimate generation, which is very good with this build because we do get a lot of ultimate back. And then it also gives you max Magicka, which pairs very well with free Triglyphs, so you have a lot of Magicka to like Cloak, Fear, and those two abilities. Poison Injection, obviously, because we're using a Master's Bow. And then Shuffle, which is our sniper removal and our damage. And then on our front bar, we're going to be using Rally, obviously, it's your heal. You're going to be using Mass Hysteria for your CC. You're going to be using Executioner for your execute. You can use Rev Slice, but Rev Slice does not really hit as hard. You can really notice the damage, so if you're going to use Rev Slice, you should really have a good reason to do it. Surprise Attack, obviously, Cookie Cutter, DPS ability, and then Stampede. The reason I use Stampede over Ambush, and I've explained this a lot of times to people, it's faster. So if you, let's look at Ambush, Stampede, super quick animation. You can do that too. You can heavy attack into a Stampede to get a lot of damage that way, and it always crits, right? Critical Strike, 8, Critical Strike, Critical Strike. Back to our CP passives. Precise Strikes, that's going to buff your Stampede damage directly because Stampede is always a critical strike. So that's something you should definitely keep in mind. Obviously our ultimates, I didn't even finish explaining myself. Stampede is a faster animation. It hits harder. It costs less stamina. So if you look at this, it's 2800 stamina. Ambush is basically 3100 stamina, so you're basically saving 300 stamina per gap closer. Ambush is slower. Slower animation. It does give you an environment, which is pretty good for ganking or blowing people up. But most of the time when you ambush someone, what do? Light attack, surprise attack, most of the time. So that one light attack you do, it's not worth the empower. Even if you just surprise attack, it's not worth the empower. The only way to utilize ambush properly is if you're gonna ambush straight into an end cap like that. And even if you do that, most good players that have been playing this game long enough will know that as soon as someone ambushes you, they either will CC you, they'll block, or they will, they'll dodge roll. So the only way you can actually make this worth it is if you just ambush and then you go right out. I just don't like doing that most of the time. I would much rather just use Stampede because it's just better. And on top of that, Stampede snares by 60% for 8 entire seconds. That's huge. Snares in this game are fucking insane, and you really need to grab on any snares that you can get because they really make a difference, especially when you're fighting like block tanks that aren't using shuffle, because shuffle doesn't exist on heavy armor anymore. So that's really good. Forgot to talk about backbar ultis. Ballista, one of my favorite things to use. I did find out from a friend of mine called Overbowed, very good Nightblade. You can put Soul Siphon, not even Soul Tether. This Soul Siphon ability is basically like a cheap man's or poor man's version of Warden's Tree ulti. It heals everyone around you for 9k health, basically 10k health, instantly. It will then heal them for 27k over 3.5 seconds, and then on top of that, you can activate a synergy if you do it around enemies, not you but your friends, and they can get healed for another 4k. So that's basically a very, very good group healing ability, and even can heal just one person back to full health. It always heals people like crazy. So if you're running groups, even solo, it'll heal you and another person you're close to basically straight up to full. It's a very strong heal. If you have a lot of ultimate, definitely worth using on your back bar. And obviously you could probably just put Dawnbreaker here for the passive weapon damage and for the AoE, not AoE, sorry, for the conal stun. So that's very good too. Some other things I wanted to talk about was my weapon damage. So weapon damage on my front bar with 1900 recovery is 3318. If you go back to a little bit extra recovery, since we are going to be playing open world, you will have 3k and 3088 weapon damage. But when our enchant is procced, that gets buffed up to 3685 with 2200 recovery basically. Or if we are running one less glyph, that would get buffed up to, sorry, let me see really quickly. That would get buffed up to 3900 recovery. And then keep in mind that we're also missing an extra 300 weapon damage, which is not going to show up on our stat sheet from our master's bow, right? So you can do that, you have your damage, and then you can go into some personal attacks. What's it called? I believe that should be everything. We went over traits, 2 well fitted, 5 impound on the body. We have 2465 crit resistance. We have 12,700 physical and spell resistance, and when we activate our shadow passive, that gets buffed up to basically 1800 spell resistance and physical resistance, and then our critical strike rating is 31%. With minor savagery, that should get buffed up to 34%. So that's pretty good. Magic recovery 591, but with Siphon, trust me, your Magicka will be there like crazy. Just don't even worry about it. Max Magicka 12 point 4k on this bar, 11.5k on this bar, max stamina on both bars, 38.4k. What else? I'm just gonna go over some combat things really quickly. What's it called? I believe if you poison injection a target too fast, you won't get the weapon damage because you have to wait till your arms turn green. So if we actually see our damage really quickly, it's 4475 crit. 1 sec. Oh wait, I think we did. I think we changed it. Because it was 4,091. Oh wait. So 4475 crit. And then if we do it without the second 4091, and then if we 4475, so yeah, there we go. That would be the difference. It does add quite a bit of weapon damage to attacks. And I did want to show you the difference between Asylum, or just basically any 2H, and any Battle Axe. So if we just buff up without anything else, no Master's Bow, no weapon damage in chat, we have 4091, 728 crit active, and then compare that to, 1 second, I'm just gonna get my Battle Axe here, just gonna wait for this to get out of combat, any second now, there we go. So we had 4,091 non-crit, 7,281 crit, and then compare that to 3,962 non-crit and 752 crit. So it's around 150 to 200 damage, 200 weapon damage loss. But keep in mind, a sword gives you 5% flat overall damage. So the higher your weapon damage goes, like when we factor in Master's Bow and the damage in chat, that's gonna be an even bigger gap. So keep that in mind. The higher weapon damage goes, the better sword is. But if we actually look at the dot, let me actually just fully buff up and show you how much this hits for. Trying to see how much this axe blade hits for. And as you can see, sometimes axe blade is pretty difficult to buff, which is an issue. Okay, I'm just trying to see what the tooltip of axe bleed was hitting for. If we actually look, heavy weapons bleed on, this is PvE by the way, so you're gonna want to have the damage you're seeing. 3,442 damage for heavy weapons bleed. Same thing, heavy weapons bleed, and then when it crits for 5,783 damage on a mob, but obviously that's going to be halved, so you're going to be hitting around like 2.6k, 2.7k crits in this build. Also keep in mind that when you in-cap a target, that's going to hit for an extra 20% on the target, so axe is definitely good. It definitely has its place. I've found no issues fighting people with axe whatsoever. Once that bleed procs, it honestly chunks people like crazy. I believe that should be everything though. We do have 2 heavy, just for the max health. You can go 1 heavy, 1 light actually. And if you do go 1 heavy, 1 light, I don't have this traded properly, but if you go 1 heavy, 1 light, we're gonna have 39k max stam instead of 38,700 that we had previously. But I believe that should be everything. I am going to be releasing a PvP montage using this video, or using this build, sorry, in the next day or 2, so definitely watch out for that. And thank you for everyone that watched this video. So have a nice day. If you have any questions, you can hit me up in game. You know my @name, or you can just comment on the video and I'll give you my 2 cents on anything else. So have a good day, guys.